Shirou let out an inward sigh as he was in Chaldea's interrogation room, and in front of him was Olga Marie, Romani, and Da Vinci, and next to him was Ritsuka. Well, I knew this was going to happen to me eventually. Okay, Emiya Shirou, I am aware about this breach of conduct that may pose to us former maguses, but for the sake of human history and what is about to happen next in the future, we must understand the capabilities of each side, understand? Olga Marie asked. Shirou was slightly confused about what Olga Marie said in the middle, but still went on with it. Yes. Good. Naturally, as the heir to the Animosphere family, you will get something in return as well. In the future, I will indulge you about any questions about my magecraft in the future, but let us focus on this meeting right now. Very well. I suppose the reason for this meeting is because of what happened a few days ago? Olga Marie let out a sigh. Yes. You have no idea how much of a headache you gave me because of the stunts you keep pulling off. Because of that, I have so many frustrating questions that it's not letting me go to sleep. Especially that, Gundam. I can see that, and I suppose that Master and Da Vinci are in the same boat as me considering that they're here as well? Considering their role in both the Mystic Code and that giant mech known as a Gundam, it's obvious that they will be receiving the same treatment as well, she said as she looked at both. For the most part, all of you will answer any questions about the Mystic Code and Gundam, and I want the entire details, Olga Marie replied before she took a drink of water from a nearby cup. Anyways, here's my first question. It's about your magecraft, Emiya Shirou. I can see that you are able to project them from the files we read, but how are you able to do that so easily? And without any cost? Shirou let out a small breath of air before answering Olga Marie's question. The reason behind how I am able to project noble phantasms is because of my special origin, which is known as sword. It allows me to understand the history of any weapon I see and replicate it. However, it all depends on how much mana I put into it. I see. Speaking of which, those two noble phantasms you summoned earlier, were they projections as well? Well, in a way, they are, but at the same time, they are not. Both Olga Marie and Romani were confused with Shirou's words. What do you mean by that? Romani asked. Those noble phantasms you saw earlier, they're known as Myojinjiri Muramasa, version Concho, and Bakuya and Ro Ajax, version Avalon. They're fused noble phantasms based on previously existing noble phantasms from knowledge I gathered. In other words, they're something I created, Shirou stated. At that moment, Olga Marie's and Romani's eyes nearly popped out from their sockets, got out of their chairs, and slammed the tables. What? Those weapons earlier were something you created? And out of existing noble phantasms as well? Olga Marie yelled in shock. Why yeah. Shirou replied. Is that even possible? I mean, making a weapon is one thing, but making one made from two already existing noble phantasms and fusing their properties together, that's unheard of before in the world of magecraft. And I'm pretty sure my ears were not damaged, but did you say Ro Ajax, version Avalon? You're telling me you made a mix between Ro Ajax, the shield used by Ajax the Great, and Avalon, the scabbard of Excalibur? Romani asked hysterically, before he felt a hand on his shoulder. Calm down, Romani, you're going crazy again, Da Vinci said to calm him down. Right, sorry about that. He said before he began to take deep breaths to calm himself down and sat back down on his chair. Anyways, how is that even possible? Well, it's because of what happened when I became the pseudo-servant vessel to Sengo Muramasa, who happened to be my ancestor. My guess is that when I fused with his spirit, it must have enhanced my origin and magecraft as well, giving me abilities I never had before, like fusing noble phantasms to make a new one. I see. Romani said as he began to drink from his cup of water. A fusion between a human and a spirit of a blacksmith can result in something like this. It's just like what happened to Mashu. However, in Emiya Shirou's case, it's quite different. How though? Wait. There's one question that's been bothering me for quite some time since that match. For instance, how did you manage to project Caliban? That's a long-lost, noble phantasm that was broken a long time ago. How did you manage to visualize it despite it being destroyed and lost forever? And how do you know what Avalon looks like? Olga Marie yelled. About that, let's just say, because of Avalon embedded in me for 10 years from my adopted dad, I began to somehow manage to image Caliban in my mind, even though I did not know what it was at the time. Olga Marie, Romani, and Da Vinci dropped their mouths. What? You had Avalon embedded inside of you for 10 years? Olga Marie exclaimed. Why yeah. Olga Marie slumped back to her chair with a sigh. Well, that makes sense. Apparently, having Avalon inside of you for 10 years gives you the vision of Caliban. What is this nonsense? Then again, this is the moonlit world, but still. Were there any changes to your body at the time? Romani asked. Well, as I mentioned earlier, my origin was changed to sword because of it. Not only that, but I began to have images of Caliban in my sleep. And my injuries were healing at a faster rate during my time in the Holy Grail War, Shirou replied. I see. Da Vinci said as she began to write something down. Looks like I have to update Shirou's file later. Alright, here's the next question, and you and Da Vinci need to answer it since both of you were responsible for it. Yes, Shirou and Da Vinci said in unison. Great. Now then, here's the other question that's been on my mind this entire time. Olga Marie then turned to Da Vinci and took a deep breath. Da Vinci, what were you thinking when you were making that mystic code? Da Vinci let out a childish chuckle. Hey. Yeah, let's just say, I got bored one day and managed to get my hands on one of Ritsuka's Gundam 00 DVDs. I know about that. Just how did you end up making that Gundam Mystic code? Well, to be honest, all I did was input the specs data from the wiki into the Mystic code and that's it. However, it was not easy and time-consuming. Really? Romani asked. Yeah. And the worst part about it was trying to find the materials used for the machine itself, Da Vinci said with a groan as she moved her head backwards on the chair. I swear, it was a miracle finding the materials for the GN drives. Not to mention the fact that I nearly worked myself to death just to making them. Wow. You must have had a hard time making that mystic code, Da Vinci? Romani asked. Yeah. And replicating its full capabilities was a challenge too, but in the end, it was all worth it, Da Vinci said with a satisfied smile on her face. That mystic code might be one of my greatest masterpieces. Olga Marie let out a small sigh. Yeah. I'll admit that mystic code you created may be a good asset for the future, but next time, ask me for permission. Yeah. Good. Speaking of which, that giant Gundam we saw in Shirou's reality marble, does it work? Both Shirou, Ritsuka, and Da Vinci looked at each other for a few seconds before looking back at Olga Marie and Romani. Yes. It works, they said in unison. Olga Marie's and Romani's eyes widened again upon hearing their response. Really? They yelled in unison. Yes. For a moment, Olga Marie was speechless before she let out a small sigh. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, explain how that existed. Well, this happened a few months ago, after Shirou showed us his noble phantasms. Of course, this happened way before both of you were summoned here in Chaldea. Anyways, the reason why that Gundam exists here in Chaldea is because of an experiment that Shirou was involved with, Ritsuka said. And what were the details of that experiment? Well, it was to see how far Shirou can project with his magecraft. At first, we did simple things like boxes, tools, and motorcycles. Then we started to do something a bit different, like projecting food. Food? Is that even possible to project food? Romani asked with interest in his voice. Yes. And surprisingly, the taste is there as well. Romani then began to have thoughts about the recent news. Huh. To think that you can actually project food, that's unheard of. Projecting food? That sounds something completely out of the box in the moonlit food. However, it sounds useful, and it can save money on ingredients for cook weight. What am I thinking? I have questions that need to be answered. Olga Marie thought before she began to go back to the topic. Anyways, that series of experiments eventually led up to him projecting the Gundam? Yes. And as we mentioned earlier, it works, Shirou said. I see. Have you attempted to use it? Romani asked. Well, that's the thing. There was a slight problem. You see, we were not able to figure out how to use it, let alone pilot it, Da Vinci said. Olga Marie and Romani were silent for a moment before Romani broke the silence. Eh? What do you mean by that? Was it broken? Well, no. The problem with the Gundam was that the piloting system in the cockpit was really complicated. We managed to turn it on, but that was it. We asked Master about it, who was an expert in the Strike Freedom Gundam and how it works, and he said that the O.S in the piloting system is way too complicated for a normal human to pilot it. He said it takes a super coordinator to understand the OS. O.S? Super coordinator? What the heck are those terms? I'm literally confused right now, Olga Marie said. Let me help you with that, Director. I'll explain it. Ritsuka then cleared his throat and took a deep breath. O.S, also known as operating system, are neural net computer operating systems designed to operate mobile suits at high efficiency levels. Each Gundam has an O.S based on which universe it is in. As for what a super coordinator is, you could say they are the advanced version of coordinators, who are genetically enhanced human beings that have several enhanced traits including faster learning and stronger and faster bodies that are virtually immune to diseases. At that moment, Olga Marie and Romani were completely stunned by Ritsuka's words, while Da Vinci let out a small chuckle. Wow. I've never seen both the director and Romani like that, and from Ritsuka, of all people. To be fair, she just received a bunch of information at once. And from a fictional anime of all things. Director, Doctor, are you alright? Ritsuka asked. Why yeah. I'm just processing things, and this is the first one of my subordinates told me something that I never heard of. This must be a dream. Olga Marie replied. Romani let out a chuckle. Quite the strange feeling, isn't it? He asked before receiving a stink eye from Olga Marie, prompting him to shut his mouth again. Anyways, have you attempted to rewrite this O.S or something so we can use it? Da Vinci let out a sigh. Sadly, no. I tried to do so in the past, but I just could not figure out how to do it. I see. Are we done with the interrogation, Director? Ritsuka asked. Not yet. There's one more question I want to ask, and it's about your ancestors' words, Olga Marie said as she looked at Shirou. Earlier, your ancestor said that there is not a single Muramasa blade inside of the King of Heroes treasury, but how though? Doesn't legend say that the Gate of Babylon possessed the prototypes of every weapon recorded in the history of humanity? Now that you mentioned it, I'm a bit curious about that too, Romani said. Me too. That part puzzled me a bit as well. In fact, some of the servants that watched your match earlier were asking me that question too, although I don't know why they asked me, Da Vinci said. Shirou let out a small sigh before he started to explain. Well, the basis behind Gilgamesh's Gate of Babylon is, as you mentioned earlier, possesses the prototypes of every weapon recorded in the history of humanity. However, there are a few exceptions. For example, Excalibur, Avalon, the twin swords Concho and Bakuya, the Muramasa blades, and more recently, the 00 Razor Mystic Code. Do you want to know why? Everyone was silent for a moment, wanting to hear Shirou's answer. It's because those weapons have a known point of creation. A known point of creation? Yes. For example, Sengo Muramasa created the Muramasa blades, Ganjiang created Concho and Bakuya, Da Vinci made the 00 Razor Mystic Code, and the Fae and World created Excalibur. In other words, if the creator of the noble phantasm is known, then Gilgamesh does not have a prototype of it in his treasury. Ritsuka, Olga Marie, Romani, and Da Vinci's mouths dropped as they were just told that the legend of Gilgamesh's Gate of Babylon, possessing the prototypes of every weapon, was a big misconception. And Gilgamesh doesn't even know about it as well, even with all of that bragging of his. Wow. To think Gilgamesh's Gate of Babylon has such a weakness. Olga Marie muttered. Yes. And I think he doesn't even notice it as well, considering that he's been bragging about him owning everything in this universe for a long time, Shirou replied. Really? Geez, it's probably better not to tell him this, or else he'll get angry again. Romani said. True. However, I'll be adding this to his file later. This is good information, Da Vinci said. I think that's going to be suicidal if he finds out about it later. Shirou, Ritsuka, Olga Marie, and Romani thought in unison. Anyways, are we done with the interrogation? Shirou asked. I suppose so. You answered all my questions at least. Very well, you can leave now, Olga Marie replied. Great. Looks like I'll be leaving now. Me too. See you, Director, Dr. Da Vinci, Ritsuka said. Soon, both Shirou and Ritsuka left the interrogation room, leaving Olga Marie, Romani, and Da Vinci behind. As the three were alone in the room, Olga Marie let out a relaxing sigh. Wow. I can't believe that we learned something new about the King of Heroes. She said. Yeah. Guess even he has limits as well, he just refuses to admit it, Da Vinci said. That's an understatement. He just flat out ignores it in his arrogance, Romani replied. Exactly. Speaking of which, I need to get back to my workshop later, with a lot of coffee in tow. How come? Olga Marie asked. Da Vinci let out a small sigh. Because word of the 00 Razor Mystic Code just spread throughout Chaldea, and now I'm getting requests from various servants. I'm never going to get any sleep after this. Shirou was walking down one of Chaldea's hallways, minding his own business. Man, it's been a few days since that match I had with Angelica, and a lot of stuff has happened since then. Not to mention the fact that I nearly got kidnapped by Morgan after that match. As he was walking down the hallway, it was then he came across Lancer CU, who seemed to be running with pained expressions on their faces. CU? For a moment, CU stopped running for a moment upon seeing Shirou. Hey kid, have you seen Shirou and her counterpart? Lancer CU asked. No. Why? CU let out a sigh of relief. Well kid, I'm hiding from her. And a part of the reason why is your fault. Shirou was confused. My fault? What did I do? CU cleared this throat. Thanks to that mystic code that you possess that turns you into the literal definition of a flying monster, Shirou and her counterpart were interested in that thing and asked the lady inventor to make ones for themselves. And do you know what that means? What? It means a new hellish training regime for me and my counterparts, which involves her flying and throwing spears at us in the air, CU said with a groan. Anyways, have you dash? I found you, Satanta, Scathach said in the distance. Siyu jumped upon hearing his teacher's voice. Shit. She found me. Well, see you later, kid, he yelled as he began to run away from Scathach like an Olympic runner. Get back here. Scathach yelled. However, it was too late as in an instant, Siyu was gone. Geez, Satanta never changes, she said with a sigh before turning to Shirou. Anyways, Emiya Shirou, I forgot to mention this earlier, but that was quite the match you had with that girl over there. I'm quite amazed with the weapons in your reality marble, and I get to see what your second noble phantasm looks like unleashed. Thank you, Shirou replied. Great. Now then, I have a pup to catch, so excuse me. Scathach then headed towards where Siyu was running. Shirou let out a sweat drop upon seeing her run. I can see where Siyu got his speed from, he thought before he began to walk in the hallway again. As he was walking down the hallway, he heard whispers from various staff members of Chaldea around him. Did you hear? Emiya Shirou possesses a Gundam now. Eh? You're kidding me. He's practically living every man's dream now. Maybe I should bring my kid over. He loves Gundams. Shirou let out a sigh. I have a feeling that I'm never going to escape from that. Shirou quickly dismissed his thoughts and continued to walk down the hallway. As he was walking, it was then he came across seeing a line of people, filled with both staff of Chaldea and servants, some of which he recognized. That's a long line of people there. I wonder what they're waiting for. As seeing the line of people piqued his curiosity, he decided to see when the line began and followed it. Eventually, he came to the front of the line and could not believe what he saw. Because in front of the line was a stall, and both Merlin and Proto-Merlin were behind the stall. And they were selling photos of Sengo Muramasa punching Gilgamesh right into the sky. Get your photos of Sengo Muramasa punching Gilgamesh. Get them while they're hot. Merlin yelled. Anyone who has a grudge against the King of Heroes, hurry up and get them while they last. This is a limited one-time chance to see the King of Heroes get humiliated and flown through the sky. Proto-Merlin yelled. Shirou's mouth dropped at the sight of Merlin and Proto-Merlin selling photos of Sengo Muramasa punching Gilgamesh right into the sky. You have got to be kidding me. It was then Merlin noticed Shirou. Oh, hey there Shirou, he said with a smile on his face. Merlin, never mind, I don't even want to know what you two are doing because you literally just said it out loud, Shirou said as he mentally facepalmed himself. Great. That makes things easier. Now that you're here, can you help us for a moment? Proto-Merlin asked. With what? Both Merlin and Proto-Merlin looked at each other for a moment before looking back at Shirou with smiles on their faces. You have autographs that needed to be signed, they said in unison. Shirou let out a sigh. This was going to be a long day for him. A few hours later, Shirou let out a groan as he was looking at his hands, which looked slightly sore from all the signing he had to do thanks to Merlin's and Proto-Merlin's shenanigans. Geez, I can't believe I spent all of that time signing photos, and people said they want to be famous. Nope, that type of lifestyle does not work for me. He thought to himself as he was washing his face in one of the men's bathrooms. As he was done, he then walked out of the bathroom, where there was someone waiting for him outside. Elizabeth Bathory. You're Elizabeth Bathory, aren't you? Shirou asked. Yeah, and I must say, I'm quite impressed with how much your popularity is rising. Elizabeth said. It's been only a year since you arrived in Chaldea, and you're this popular already. Not to mention that your ancestor is getting popular as well from punching that arrogant King of Heroes into the sky. Even just from looking at the photo, I can imagine what kind of face that king was showing when he was punched. Shirou slightly sweat dropped. Even Muramasa is getting popular in Chaldea. Why am I not surprised? He thought to himself before his attention returned to Elizabeth. So, what do you need me for? Well, it frustrates me to say this, but I need points from you on how to get more popular. Elizabeth embarrassingly yelled. Eh? Yeah. You heard me. I need points from you on how to be more popular. It frustrates me how you managed to get popular so easily while I had to struggle for it. Just how? How is it that you managed to get this popular so easily? Answer me, she yelled as she was tugging on his kimono. Shirou was not sure what to even say in the situation he was in. However, before he could even think of an answer, he felt someone else tugging on his arm. That someone else is mysterious idol X-Alter, also known as Ekin. Ekin? Shirou said. Shirou, I need my daily intake of your sweets now, she said as she began to grip on his arm. Hey! I'm in the middle of a conversation with him now. Elizabeth yelled. Sorry, but sweets are important now. And don't you dare take my manager away from me, Elizabeth. He's mine. And the two began a tug of war, and Shirou was the unlucky person in the middle of it. Oh, make one last item left. So, you said you had something left for us to see, Da Vinci? Olga Marie asked as she was walking towards Da Vinci's workshop along with Da Vinci and Romani. Yes. There is one more thing that you need to see, Da Vinci replied. Da Vinci, please don't tell me it's something so extravagant or crazy that is going to make the director freak out again. Romani muttered. Romani, don't make me kick your ass. Olga Marie growled, making Romani shut his mouth. Da Vinci let out a small sigh. Soon, all three of them went into Da Vinci's workshop. Give me a moment. I need to find it first, Da Vinci said as she began to head towards her desk to find the item she was looking for. After a few seconds, she returned to Olga Marie and Romani with certain items in her hands, which were two oddly shaped rings and a hand-shaped belt buckle. HM? Da Vinci? What are these mystic codes? Romani asked. Oh, these? Well, just try them on and see. Romani then placed the rings on his ringed fingers and the belt buckle on his waist. Okay, now what? The ring that's on your left hand, scan it on the belt. Romani then did what Da Vinci told him to do. As he did, the belt activated, surprising him and Olga Marie. Driver on. In an instant, the belt transformed into a bigger version of the hand, but it was surrounded by silver. What the heck? Da Vinci, is this what you were going to show us? Romani asked. Yes. And that's not the main part. Flick the switch on the top of the belt. Romani then flicked the switch on the belt. Shabadooby touch henshin. Shabadooby touch henshin. Okay. Scan the other ring on the belt. Slightly confused with what was going on, Romani then scanned the other ring on the belt. As he did, the belt activated another function. Flame, please, hi. And in an instant, Romani was turned into Kamen Rider Wizard. For a moment, silence occurred between the three people. Then Olga Marie decided to speak out. What the hell is that? Da Vinci let out a chuckle. That is, Kamen Rider Wizard, she said as she pointed at Romani dramatically. Silence returned to the room as everyone just stood in their positions. Da Vinci, by any chance, did you look at Ritsuka's DVDs before you made this? Romani asked. Yes? Da Vinci replied. Olga Marie moaned. Da Vinci,